Hi guys, it's Jacob from StringBuzz here, stringbuzzworld.org being a music journalism site, links are in the description down below, and we have a brand new song review for you today, and it's the latest track by Fall Out Boy, and that's Young and Menace. So I'm going to refer to the original article as I usually do for these videos, so I hope you enjoy. So this track came out yesterday, and I saw that no matter where you're from around the world, everybody seems to be absolutely losing their heads over it when it comes to their reception of this track. Sure, I like the old Fall Out Boy stuff, but I don't really want that to be revisited. I don't think it would work right now. And sure, I hated the new poppier sound which they went down and the obvious chart ploys they put into their music on their last album. But we have this brand new track, and one of which I think could either turn away their most loyalist fans who tried to sit through that last album, or bring a new chapter into the group's artisthood. So shall we see what I thought of this brand new track? Despite me totally understanding the criticism given towards the track and the idea of sellout slash devolving in music from a fan's point of view, I actually thought this was a step in the right direction for the group in comparison to their last few outings anyway. We were never going to get that old pop punk sound, and I wouldn't want that anyway, and pop punk has changed so much since then that anyway I don't think the majority of people would want that either. But I thought this song did many things right actually in comparison to what they tried to go for before, and things which they're perhaps not being given credit for. For one, it's still pretty unique, and you still have Patrick's voice at the forefront of the mix, meaning it still does sound like a vintage Fall Out Boy track, much more so than their last album, because Patrick was edited to heck in that track, the album rather. The instrumentals are also a little more varied in my opinion when it actually comes to what instrumentals are actually being used, and although I couldn't stand the pitch corrected sample in the breakdown, whatever that was trying to be, the track's texture in general and varied approach is much more stronger than I was expecting. Production-wise, the track is much more of a mixed bag for me, since the slightly dubstep approach means I have to review this in a slightly different way than I was anticipating. I think the vocals sound strong, and the dual pan vocals in particular sounded great in that pre-chorus to give Patrick's voice a little more diversity in this track. The guitars are a little more organic than on a typical electronic track, and although they don't sound particularly good, and they still do sound a bit tagged on like they didn't need to be there, they were certainly better than what we've heard by a lot of other groups around that era, people like Linkin Park, Good Charlotte, maybe even throwing Incubus into there. The texture is thick and wholesome, with each layer sounding prominent and profound in the mix, despite the pad heavy approach, which it very obviously was, and I think those pads had decent timbres. They were slightly atypical, but they weren't memorable enough for me to even remember them. I did hate those pitch manipulated vocal samples though. I thought they were terrible, and they made the track seem infinitely cheesier. I think it would have sounded better for a guitar melody perhaps to cut through there, or maybe even a vocal hook, as it just seemed like a lazy production choice rather than a musical stroke. All in all, the production is a bit of a difficult one to really summarize. I think it does sound better than your usual EDM ballad, but it still isn't particularly strong or anything like that, and I'm beginning to feel like you cannot make a strong, or rather cannot go through a decent production cycle when it comes to making an EDM ballad. When it comes to the musicality of this track, there are aspects within the runtime which I really did enjoy. I thought the subtle, eerie beat in the verses, which were my favorite parts of this track, worked well to add some atmosphere into this song. I thought the vocal performance from Patrick was actually stellar. I thought it was fantastic. I thought the drum beats were varied and even incorporated some slightly atypical time signatures on the kick, because it sort of dipped in and out of the metronome, which I always enjoy. The only thing I didn't really like at all was the synth breakdown. I just thought it was unnecessary. The track spent a lot of time building up this atmosphere, one of which is probably the most unique atmospheres we've heard Fall Out Boy produce over the last 5 years or so, and then it just seemed a little odd to really blow that all away with this very standardized dubstep like breakdown. It seemed unnecessary, as I've already said. It didn't suit the mood of the track, and it made the track much more predictable on the replays, and whilst on that subject, it definitely hurt the replayability factor for this track, as you hear it so many times. This synth chorus breakdown thing just happens over and over again, so I think that's a big misstep for me, and I think it nearly ruined the entire track. Lyrically, the song is functional, and it's more of your propaganda is everywhere type of thing, which is not really my cup of tea. It's a bit cheesy, it's been done to death at this time. But I didn't think it was necessarily bad or the lyrics were badly written. It was just functional for me. So all in all, the track ends up being alright, I think. Like I said, it certainly isn't bad, and it's definitely a step in the right direction for the group, and I think people should be happy with this track rather than slating it. But this is neither enough to pull back those fans which were probably lost from that poppier outing, nor is it different enough to pull in more casual listeners. So it's a bit of a dead rubber, really. I gave it a G rating of 5.5 out of 10, which just squeaks into the above average category. So if you like this video, then please leave a like, subscribe to see more, and I'll see you around next time. Bye bye.